welcome everybody to another episode of the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! Well, we're back for another week of entertainment for you, talking about the big stories going on in the world of entertainment here. I don't know, in our world. That's all I'm going to say. I am the outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by these two incredible gentlemen. My brother in the middle is
Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies, and the guy in the middle.
and all the way at the end there.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Goldbergs, and Silicon Valley.
Yeah, all great stuff. Two incredibly talented gentlemen I am blessed to have on the show every week and to co-host the show with, so it's always my joy. I'm just a writer, producer, and host over here. That's all I do. But listen. Let me tell you
the tech guy, and the tech guy.
And the tech guy.
You're what we call a multi-hyphenate.
Oh, thank you. But I will say this before we go further. Big thanks from all of us, including MF5, to everyone who's been watching our WandaVision reviews. Thank you all so much. Episode 4 crossed 11,000 views within 3 days. And for a channel that's still building, that's an awesome situation to happen. If you haven't watched our reviews for them, we have episode 1 and 2 as a separate review, episode 3 and episode 4, and we will be doing episode 5 and drop it on Saturday as well this week. So get ready for that. We've been enjoying it. And our main topic today will be about WandaVision. Speaking of main topics, for those of you new to the show, thank you so much for watching us or downloading this on the Geek Buddies podcast feed. For those of you watching it, you can listen to it later on if you want to as well while you're cleaning the house or doing whatever on the podcast feed. For those of you who are coming back again, thank you so much for staying on the Geek Buddies train. The way this works is each of us presents a geek news item. We talk about it, take a mini break, and then jump into our main topic. And as I said, our main topic will be all the WandaVision rumors and some of the comments that Elizabeth Olsen has said recently about this big surprise, this big reveal coming for WandaVision. We're going to speculate on all of that on the back end of the show. But first, shall we get into it? Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, our first story. I think I'll handle the first story. It's from the Hollywood Reporter. They're reporting that Black Panther director Ryan Coogler is building out the world of Wakanda. This is part of a new exclusive 5-year deal, overall deal between Disney TV and Coogler's Proximity Media. He is developing a Wakanda-based Disney Plus series, and they'll have a hand in other shows that are set in the MCU, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Disney Executive Chairman Bob Iger said in a statement, Ryan Coogler is a singular storyteller whose vision and range have made him one of the standout filmmakers of his generation. With Black Panther, Ryan brought a groundbreaking story and iconic characters to life in a real meaningful and memorable way, creating a watershed cultural moment. We're thrilled to strengthen our relationship and look forward to telling more great stories with Ryan and his team. Coogler runs Proximity Media with Zinzi Coogler, Zev Ohanian, Ludwig Göransson, some of you may know, Archie Davis, and Peter Nix. He is currently writing the sequel to Black Panther, and he said it's an honor to be partnering with the Walt Disney Company. Working with them on Black Panther was a dream come true. As avid consumers of television, we couldn't be happier to be launching our television business with Bob Iger, Dana Walden, and all the amazing studios under the Disney umbrella. All right, there is no speculation yet on what this series might be, but Michael, let me get your reaction. You've been an executive. You've probably talked to people who've had these deals. What was your feeling when you heard the news? And then what do you think this means for Ryan Coogler overall as we go into Disney and the MCU?
Well, so first of all, I think this is awesome. I think that as we know, because we've talked about this on the show, we've talked about this on some of our live shows. I think we all think that Kevin Feige, Ryan Coogler, Marvel's decision not to recast T'Challa was a good one. And that I personally think that's a good way to move with the storytelling. I do recognize that a lot of people don't feel that way, and a lot of people feel like they should recast T'Challa. What I think this is a good sign of is that not only is Ryan Coogler currently working on Black Panther 2, which may give us a new character in the Black Panther role or continue on that legacy, explain what has happened to T'Challa within the MCU. Mm-hmm. But by doing this Wakanda TV series, it signals that this whole area of the MCU is going to start spawning new stories, new characters, new heroes. So that means as we talk about diversity, as we talk about representation, and you look at what Ryan Ryan Coogler's Black Panther did for the Marvel Universe as a whole, that we're going to continue that, and that he's going to be one of the main creatives that's going to helm that area of storytelling. And I think that's really important, because I think what he did in Black Panther was so amazing. I feel more comfortable with how they're going to navigate Chadwick Boseman's loss in Black Panther 2 because Ryan Coogler is writing and directing it. And I think that the fact that he gets to take his singular vision of Wakanda and spread that out into TV and give us new characters is a really, really good sign for where the MCU is going, and for how important Wakanda is going to be in phase 4, phase 5, and moving forward with Marvel. So I think it's a win across the board. It's a win creatively. It's a win financially. For Ryan Coogler, I think it's great because, this overall deal that he has, hopefully he does a lot more MCU stuff. That is the main thing that we report, being the geeky people that we are. Yeah. But his deal extends beyond Disney Plus. It goes to all of Disney's streaming platforms. So Ryan Coogler's Proximity Media can be doing new stories, new movies, new TV shows for Disney Plus, for Hulu, for ESPN. There's a lot of potential there for him to tell these stories. And I do think that Ryan Coogler is pretty amazing. And I'm glad that him stepping on board the Marvel train to do Black Panther has paved the way for him to be telling other stories. Because although we are most excited for the Black Panther and Wakanda stuff, I'm excited to see what else he does even outside of the geeky realm as well.
Yeah, you look at this, Shannon. I mean, this seems like a really great idea from both sides. It's a win-win situation. Do you think they waited to see how people reacted to WandaVision before they fully made this announcement? Because it seems like since they're going to go forward with Black Panther 2 and then maybe connect a TV series into Black Panther 2, there are decades of characters and mythology to choose from here in the Black Panther mythology in the comics. So this seems to make a lot of sense. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I think they knew in terms of what their viewership was going to be on Disney Plus for their MCU series. I think they knew that it was going to get eyes, that it was going to get numbers. What I'm curious about is in the writing of Black Panther 2, having to deal with the loss of Chadwick Boseman, was this an idea that has sprung out of the new idea for that movie, what the new movie is going to be? Right. And honestly, it's a no-brainer. I mean, the great thing that they have been announcing with these series is, like Claw said in Black Panther, it's like the vibranium. We've barely scratched the surface of Wakanda. Yeah. This really rich world was introduced, and I know the Dora Milaje had a comics run, and right now, at least just with Black Panther, the only people we've seen in Wakanda, really the only characters we've gotten to know outside of M'Baku are people in that throne room. What does every day look like in Wakanda? What does someone like a vendor on the street? What does that look like? And the fact that Ryan Coogler was able to come in and make such an impression with his film, obviously you want him involved. And again, I imagine this was probably his idea. Yeah. It's really, really exciting. I mean, again, we don't know what Black Panther 2 is gonna be yet. But already with this series, God, are we gonna get to see more M'Baku? I know one of my favorite moments from Endgame, as the two sides are charging at the very end with the Marvel heroes versus Thanos' army, the fact that M'Baku was running right up front, I was like, that's awesome. This is just a big guy who is a really, really good warrior next to the God of Thunder. I'm like, that is awesome. And I think whatever this show is going to be, it's probably going to be very special.
Yeah, Winston Duke, of course, made the most of the screen time that he had, and he certainly left an impression with a lot of people. Certainly my favorite character coming out of Black Panther. And Michael, you can't ignore the timing of this. This is Black History Month. This is a move by Disney to drop this here. And it doesn't have to be the TV series. As I said earlier, it might connect to Black Panther 2, Michael, but it could also be a prequel. It could also be something that goes back in time to look at the origins, because the opening of Black Panther laid the groundwork for this has gone on for multiple decades and centuries.
Yeah, excuse me. There's definitely a rich history of Wakanda that they can dive into. I do think Shannon probably is onto I think Shannon's probably correct in that as Ryan Coogler has been crafting this story for Black Panther 2, he goes in for a meeting with Kevin Feige. He says, this is the direction things are going. I'm going to do this. And you might be right. He might say, I'm going to go back. We're going to have flashbacks to previous Black Panthers. Or he might say, I think that the Dora Milaje are going to do this, and I really want to feature this new character. But something in the crafting of the Black Panther 2 story, now that they've shifted directions, Kevin Feige, the Marvel team, Bob Iger were like, hey, that should be a TV show.
Right,
yes, you should do this. Let's have the movie come out. Let's have everybody fall in love with this character. And then let's have this TV show, whether that's a flashback, a previous Black Panther, a brand new character. I think that's probably a high likelihood just given the timing. And yes, from a PR standpoint, announcing this during Black History Month is definitely a, hey guys, we are continuing in this. And hopefully we get studios to do more and more things like this so that we can announce these things all year round and not just during Black History Month. And we can just have awesome stories with all kinds of characters all year round. And that would be lovely.
Yeah, and you said it earlier, Mike, this idea that it's not just the Black Panthers. And I think that was in Coogler's quote, all the studios under the Disney umbrella. So Star Wars is a possibility. Any number of things are a possibility here. And certainly this seems to be, as Disney Plus and other studios are embracing their streaming services more and more, they are making moves to put more content on there that is fresh and new and interesting. And certainly it seems like if you're a creator coming in under the Disney umbrella and you're successful with a franchise, then the next question is probably, okay, how do we make a TV show that is a companion piece to this movie or to whatever you're creating here? So that's certainly something that I'm excited about, to see that they're understanding this situation. You're right. Maybe Feige said, you know what, that's a TV show. Or Coogler went in and said, I started writing this and I started coming up with these ideas. What do you think? And so all of that through it would be so much fun to explore. And, people are talking about the Black Panther thing. Killmonger could come back as a different person. A different person can grab the mantle of Killmonger and become Killmonger, couldn't they? So that's a possibility, too, to bring that villain back into the MCU under a different actor. So that's a way to do it through the TV series. That's certainly possible, I think, too.
Yeah.
I'm excited
to see.
Do you mean like a new spirit inhabiting Michael B. Jordan's body, or someone else?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, a new actor playing Killmonger, right? A new actor who is like, because I'm sure not everyone's all aboard the T'Challa train. I'm sure there are some people who have had some issues on T'Chaka, and T'Challa ran the kingdom. No, you're never going to satisfy everyone. Lord knows we're all experiencing that. They're never going to satisfy everybody in a country, no matter who's running it. And so that could spawn people who are against him or have their own nefarious reasons for doing the things that they are doing. So I could see that coming down the road as well. But,
I mean, everybody from the Border Tribe, Daniel Kaluuya's character, like he's probably, an entire tribe was down for supporting this guy who came in and killed the king. So, the storytelling possibilities, they are limitless.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
Mike?
And I think like at the center of the first Black Panther movie was this idea of how Wakanda should interact with the world outside. And a big part of that, particularly through Killmonger's storyline, was the way the world outside had dealt with slavery, with black people. That was central to the story. So as Ryan Coogler is continuing that narrative and continuing that idea of Wakanda, now revealed to be the most technologically advanced place in the entire world within the MCU, and how the outside world responds to Wakanda, and to your point, how different factions within Wakanda respond to that. I think that's very, very ripe area for storytelling. And I think we probably will see a lot of differing opinions on how that should be, because truth be told, if Wakanda wanted to become the global superpower, I don't see any reason why they couldn't. So it'll be really interesting to see if they start to explore a lot of those ideas.
Certainly is what Killmonger wanted, and just to give a little background real quick before we move on for some of the characters that could be popping up in this TV series. Cyan is the uncle of T'Challa, the brother of T'Chaka. He becomes Black Panther for a little while. You've got Monica Lynn, who's a singer who saved T'Challa, and Gassi is an advisor to T'Challa, who was an acting regent. There's a Queen Divine Justice, who is a street smart queen of the Jabari tribe. She could be involved in this. Storm could show up in this in some shape or form for sure. Achibi, a poor farmer in South Africa who sold his soul to the demon Mephisto. possibilities here. Kyber the Cruel, which is a scientist who was involved in this. Kraven the Hunter has been involved in the Black Panther in the comic books. Man-Ape, we saw that with M'Baku. So how much more can we explore that? As you mentioned, Namor has been involved. Rumors about him possibly being in Black Panther 2 as well. Wind Eagle, which is a villain who wears an anti-gravity costume that enables him to fly and glide on wind currents. And Zenzi, a Wakandan empath with powers of mind manipulation. So as we've said, all three of us, there is a wealth of characters, a wealth of stuff to explore here. So we look forward to seeing what Ryan Coogler does both in the Black Panther universe, in this TV show, and outside of the Black Panther universe as well. So, all right, let's move on to our second story. Who's got that one, Mikey?
That is me. Yep. We got some good news for Broadway fans. So, taking off my nerdy comic book hat for a minute and putting on my super gay Broadway hat, big news this week. The movie adaptation of Wicked, which is one of the most popular Broadway shows in the history of Broadway, had some big news going forward this week, and that news was that Jon Chu is stepping on board to direct. So last we heard from Jon Chu, he was attached to Disney Plus's Willow. He was going to direct the first episode and sort of helm that. He had to step away because between COVID issues, delays in production, and the fact that he's having a baby, he said he couldn't do it. Now, maybe this was part of the reason he couldn't do it too. Maybe the timing just worked out. But regardless, as Billy Elliot director Stephen Daldry stepped off of Wicked, Jon M. Chu has stepped on, and he will now be bringing Wicked to the big screen. And that's awesome because, even though we haven't seen it yet, there is a lot of excitement around Jon Chu directing In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical that he made before Hamilton, which is coming out on HBO Max and in theaters later this year. And if you just look at Jon M. Chu's career, with the stuff that he's done through the early stuff he's done on YouTube, through Crazy Rich Asians, through everything, he is definitely a director with an eye towards dance, towards movement, towards creating a very, very beautiful film. And so he definitely has the right kind of chops to tackle not just one Broadway musical within the Heights, but another one like Wicked. So I think there's a lot of excitement about him doing it. He's such a high-profile director that even though there have been people attached and not attached to Wicked, the movie version, for years and years and years, this one feels like it's definitely going, and that we will all be sitting in theaters very, very soon, defying gravity with Elphaba and Galinda. So I'm clearly very excited about this, but what do you guys think?
Jan?
Well, I think he's probably a better fit for Wicked than for Willow, in my opinion. After having watched G.I. Joe Retaliation again recently.
Why?
HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
I also watched The Rise of Cobra.
Oh, my God. What is wrong with you?
You got time to kill, man.
You know what? I'd give you 500 other movies that you put in your queue. But anyway, go ahead. Yes.
I think he's probably a better fit for Wicked versus Willow. I mean, what we have seen from his career, like the Step Up series, what we've seen from In the Heights is a guy who really understands how to film choreography. And not that Wicked is like a huge dance musical as compared to like In the Heights, but it definitely is. That is a Broadway show. Now, I've never seen Wicked live. I've only seen the clips on YouTube. I've seen the Tonys. Yeah.
What?
When it was here at the Pantages, I was just like, I liked the music when it first came out. But then I read the book, and like I know that the book is way different from the musical, but I was just kind of like, it just wasn't available when I was in that mode to see it. Like, I will see it at some point. Every time I've been to New York, now it's like, well, there's this other thing that I would rather see. It's like going to New York and seeing Phantom or Les Mis. It's just like, well. Right. That's been there for a very long time. Yeah. I'm still curious about it, though. And I do think Jon M. Chu is a great director for musicals.
Johnny?
Yeah. I haven't seen In the Heights, so I can't judge his musical stuff. I know that he's done his Step Up, shows, films. Him walking away from Willow was interesting. And that's a separate conversation that I have a little bit of issues with Ron Howard and once again replacing a person of color with a white person like he did in Solo, replacing Michael Kenneth Williams with Paul Bettany. Just a little concerned about him. Not trying to put too much of a spotlight on it, but just a little concerned about it. But you look at this situation here. I wasn't the biggest fan of the romantic comedy. I know it was Crazy Rich Asians. I know it was good for the Asian community, but I wasn't like, oh, this is great. I thought it was enjoyable, but it was great. So my concern is that I think he's a decent director. I don't think he's a great director. So my concern now comes into, well, will he get this thing right? Because I haven't seen In the Heights. I didn't like that trailer, to be honest with you. So I'm a little concerned about what he's going to do with Wicked. I am in Shannon's boat. I've heard the music. Michael sings it nonstop, but I've never seen the actual musical itself on stage. So for me personally, I have reservations, but let's see what he does. If I see In the Heights and it's great, then I'm 1,000% on board with Wicked. And I also think there was probably some creative issues that moved him off Willow, and then he grabbed this situation, or he essentially in his mind traded up. Like, hey, this Willow thing, TV series, I'm gonna go grab a feature film that is bigger in scope, and I could be like the new musicals director for the new generation. It's possible.
If I had to guess, and again, this is I have no inside information on this. Yeah. If I had to guess, he was really excited about doing Willow, and I think he genuinely was. Yeah. But I think that maybe, in addition to COVID and production delays and a baby on the way, maybe this Wicked thing started to be a possibility, and that helped his decision to say he needed to step away. If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know for sure. Also, I'm just really distraught that you guys have not seen Wicked. I don't know that I knew this, and I'm really upset about it. And I just feel like there's only so much that I can do. I am just one homosexual. There's only so much that I can do to help your musical theater education, and I feel like I actually blame myself for this.
Which was That was our whole plan, to have you blame yourself. Yes.
I can't believe that this is where we are at this point in our friendship.
I mean, my last 2 New York trips, I went and saw Something Rotten both times.
Oh, see, this guy, he loves to watch the same things over and over again.
I mean, Shannon, I gave up on you when you came to visit me in New York when I was at Hasbro Toy Fair, and I had a bunch of meetings, and you were like, I think I'm going to go see Spider-Man. Turn on the dark, turn off the dark, whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever.
And I told you, don't do it. Go see anything else. And you said, I know it's not great, but I just want to check it out for myself. And I'm like, please don't go. And you said, no, I'm going to do it. And then I went to some meetings and I came back and you were in the room and I'm like, well, and you were like, wow, that was a mistake.
But I'm glad I did it. That viewing of that show, the fact that they actually had a technical hold during the show, I was in the balcony and one of the mini Spider-Men had swung up and was in front of us when they had a technical hold, and this poor stunt guy who does not have probably a lot of experience doing stand-up had to turn around and talk to the crowd. It was an amazing experience, even though, yes, the show was a mistake.
Oh, man.
I love it. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trading up in this business. Executives and studio heads drop directors if they feel they can get a better director. That happens. So the game is the game, and maybe this bought Jon M. Chu, a little more time with his family, a little more time to prep at home, a little more time to, kind of work on something else where he didn't feel the rush to jump onto the Willow project with the timetable that's on. That's certainly possible as well. So a lot of factors into this, but we'll see how In the Heights does. It's getting early buzz. We'll see if it's good. And then
again, as someone who's a huge fan of In the Heights, obviously we all love Hamilton, and Hamilton is one of the seminal works of our lifetime as far as musicals go. In the Heights is fantastic, and I really can't wait to see what he does with that too. To be honest, that's probably one of the things that I'm most excited that's coming out on HBO Max this year, more so than any of the nerdier options out there. In the Heights is probably my top thing.
Okay, let me throw something in before we get to the last topic. Gentlemen, the Golden Globes nominations were dropped today. Not a lot of geeky stuff to talk about, but you speak about Hamilton, Mike. Lin-Manuel Miranda was nominated for Best Actor. So this thing is considered a movie that can be nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, what have you, in the categories here. What's your reaction to that? Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's not really a movie that should have been nominated? Where do you feel on that? And it was also nominated for Best Musical or Comedy, and also The Mandalorian was nominated for Best Television Drama. So what do you think about that, gentlemen?
I thought you were going to say Mandalorian was nominated for Best Musical, and I was like, well, that's not. That doesn't make sense. Shannon, what do you think?
Well, as much as I loved Hamilton on Disney Plus. Nominating it for Best Picture, I'm kind of like, was it though? I mean, it was a filmed performance of a musical. Right. I would have been I don't know if they ever would have gotten to this, but I would have been curious, what does an actual filmed adaptation of Hamilton look like? That, I'm really curious. I don't know if that works on the big screen. I think it probably would, but I don't know. The fact that they essentially filmed a play and they did it incredibly, it's so enjoyable. I don't really feel like it should have been nominated. I don't feel like it was not a feature film. It was a filmed performance. Right. So, but Lin-Manuel Miranda was great, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I just think of other things that got snubbed that maybe would have taken its spot.
Okay.
Like what? Right.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a comedy, but One Night in Miami. I can't believe that didn't get nominated.
Yeah, it did get nominated for Best Picture Drama. That's true.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I would have put that. I mean, even though it's not really a comedy, I mean, it certainly is a musical. But yeah, that's my thought.
I'd have booted Trial of Chicago 7 right on out of there and put One Night in Miami in there. It's ridiculous that's the nominated. Mikey, what do you think? And what's your thoughts on Mandalorian being nominated? Rarely do Star Wars shows get nominated for Golden Globes. So what do you think about that?
To be fair, there's not a lot of Star Wars shows out there, but yes, you're right. Movies don't either. I think that this is a weird year. I think that there has not. To Shannon's point, I'm not saying that there were just no other options. There are some amazing films out there that have been overlooked that people haven't checked out, 1000%. But when you look at the movies that were sort of the pop culture moments, the things that everybody was talking about, the movies that you're like, oh, this performance, this director, this and that. Right. There weren't as many, whether that was because people were overlooking things or whatever. We were all a little distracted with, global pandemics and systemic racism and everything else. Right. But I think that Hamilton, Shannon's right. The other side of that argument was Hamilton represents a specific moment, and that movie coming out on Disney Plus was one of the few times that everybody in the country kind of felt like, not everybody, but that was a thing that everybody was talking about together at the same time. And I think that that's probably why it's gotten nominated, because sort of emotionally, that was one of the things. We didn't have all of the big movie blockbusters and all the things because we weren't going to the movies. So I think that's probably why it did. And I'm kind of okay with that for now, although I think Shannon makes some valid points. But I think that as far as Star Wars goes and Mandalorian, look, I think Mandalorian is that good. I think that I'm not going to say that Mandalorian is better than any Star Wars movie ever. And we all know that in general, fantasy movies, sci-fi movies tend to get overlooked or snubbed or seen as not on the level as other things. I think Mandalorian is bringing that level of special effects, that level of production value, that level of storytelling to the small screen is what made it that. I think that, and Marvel's doing this too with WandaVision right now, but we are seeing these, as opposed to what we used to see, and no knock against them, but whether it be Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. or even Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, which were all great, they were great in terms of this is great for television. Right. Mandalorian, WandaVision this is what I pay to go see in a theater, but I'm getting it in TV-sized chunks every week. And I think Mandalorian is one of the first movies that did, TV shows that did that, which is why it's being nominated, because it has sort of elevated the genre in that way.
I agree.
Was this the first Golden Globe nomination for The Mandalorian? Did the first season get nominated?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question.
Because I feel like it did get nominated for an Emmy.
Let me see.
I certainly thought the second season was more deserving of a nomination than the first.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. But not by much. I mean, I think it was pretty good. No, it was. I think it's only been nominated for. This is the first time it's been nominated. So,
okay.
At least from what I'm looking here, I don't see it anywhere else. So there you go. Two things that could have taken the place. I would absolutely kick out Hamilton and The Prom and replace them with Emma, which was excellent, and the King of Staten Island. A lot of people saw The King of Staten Island. That film is absolutely very funny and also pretty dramatic in certain moments as well. Great work by Pete Davidson and Bill Burr in that movie, and Marissa Tomei as well. So I would have kicked those two out for sure. I'm not going to touch Borat. It is what it is.
Well, and the fact that Palm Springs got nominated.
Yeah, I love that.
Palm Springs was awesome.
Yeah, agreed.
Palm Springs was delightful.
1,000%. You should have watched that again, Shannon, instead of G.I. Joe. All right.
Who says I haven't? Who says I haven't?
Fair enough. All right. What's our last thing here as we wrap up our first part of the show here, man?
Trailers. 3 weeks in a row. Is it that we have such a lack of news to report on, or the fact that these really cool trailers are coming out?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Why can't it be both?
The first trailer, these gentlemen know, this is just hits me in the sweet spot. This is the first trailer for HBO Max's The Nevers just premiered. So this is a show that is set in like a late 19th century Victorian sci-fi fantasy. Now we know this was from Joss Whedon. This is the show that he left.
Yes.
Was forced out. We don't know. Like he I think it was in November that of last year that it was announced that he was stepping away, that he was choosing to step away. Coincidentally, as like the Justice League investigation was wrapping up. Right. But this is a series that is, let me find the thing, an epic science fiction drama about a gang of Victorian women who find themselves with unusual abilities, relentless enemies, and a mission that might change the world. So basically, there's this event that gives this group of Victorian women powers. I mean, this hits me in all the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen sweet spots here. I mean, and a really impressive cast as well. Laura Donnelly, Olivia Williams, who was on Dollhouse from Joss Whedon, Nick Frost, Ben Chaplin. This looks so freaking cool to me. I just love the production value. I love the Victorian setting. The cracking heads while being prim and proper. I cannot wait for this series to come out in April. But gentlemen, The Nevers, what do you think?
Yeah, Mike, please.
I mean, it's X-Men.
Yes.
X-Men.
Yes.
It's X-Men. I just love if somebody's like, guys, here's my pitch. A section of humanity gets powers and everyone else is really, really uncomfortable and says that they need to be like handled or taken care of. And you're like, yeah, it's X-Men, but it's Victorian era and there's blimps. Ooh, now I'm in. I'm just kidding. Zeppelin. It actually looks great.
Zeppelins.
The blimp is a blimp is a blimp. No, look, it looks super fun. It is like, it's really funny. Anytime, it's really hard to get away from this now. Like anytime you have a group of people have powers and the rest of the world hates and fears them, you're like, we have gone down this road, but I do like the petticoats, so I'm super on board. It looks interesting. It looks really cool. I'm very curious about it. Aside from the fact that it's X-Men and Victorian era, we don't know a ton about the show or the characters, but I'm definitely intrigued. And I think, yes, Joss stepping away was probably not necessarily his choice. And so... And I think given all of the heat on Joss, it's just going to be interesting to see what this world is, who these characters are. Definitely a lot to be curious about. Definitely something I'm going to check out. Definitely something I'm going to relentlessly make fun of because it's basically X-Men.
Yeah. I'm going to try to do this in 1 minute. I'm intrigued, certainly for sure. Joss Whedon left. He said, I couldn't handle the physical challenges of making such a huge show during a global pandemic. By the way, he also couldn't unlock Batwoman for some reason, or Batgirl for some reason. So whatever with that. So yeah, these are eventually you step away from too many projects. People go, well, we don't really buy the bullshit you're shoveling here, guy. But that being said, this looks curious. I'm curious for it. We'll see if it's any good. I'm gonna need to see more. I don't see a lot of buzz around it. I did interview James Norton about it when I was interviewing him a few months ago over that film that he had, Mr. Jones, that had come out, and he spoke about it glowingly about his experience on the set. So that makes me curious, and he's in the trailer as well. So I'm excited to see his part in it. We'll see if this turns out, but I will say I walked away from that trailer and be like, okay, let's see what happens. So that was good.
And our second trailer this week. This is our second trailer that is the second trailer for Coming to America. So this is a film that I have been cautiously optimistic, and with the more footage that I see, the more cautious I feel that I have to become.
You're an evil person. You're an evil person.
Look, I love that first movie. I think everyone involved are incredibly talented. I think Wesley Snipes looks hilarious.
Yeah.
The vibe that I am getting from this trailer is just a very sanitized version of what the movie could have been. But again, I know that movie that you guys hold it probably more near and dear to your heart than I do, but I was still I loved it. I mean, it was a great movie to sneak and watch because it had so much cussing. I just don't feel like that's what we're going to get from this. And again, I hope I'm wrong, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you, Shannon. It feels a little PG-13-ish as I watch it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Look, I mean, we've been going through hell in 2020. We're into 2020 already, and 2021 didn't start out all nice either. So there's a lot we're navigating, and we're just barely out of January, and it feels like so much happened in that month already. So looking forward to a film that's going to bring us back to a time when we could all get in the theater and laugh and talk about it and repeat the lines and quote them over and over again and watch the film over and over again is going to be great to go back to that world. Now I'm starting to move towards that Bill and Ted 3 Face the Music feeling where it's like, it's just going to be nice to revisit these characters again, and whatever time machine the barbershop is in. All of that is going to be a lot of fun for sure. But yes, as I watched this, I did laugh. I did enjoy it. I chuckled. I'm certainly looking forward to it. But I also felt, a little sanitized, but whatever. It's old. These are all old people for the most part. You're not going to get cutting edge comedy from these old people. But Mikey, what do you think?
I think similar. I think I'm just kind of accepting what this movie is. Aside from that aspect of it, I think that we're clearly going to spend more time in Zamunda.
Yes.
So whereas the first movie was very much like we are in America for the majority of the movie, this looks like we go to America, we get his son, mom, uncle all come back to Zamunda, and we're sort of in Zamunda for a big chunk of the movie. And it looks like a big chunk of the movie surrounds the fact that this male heir is coming back who doesn't know anything about the country, and that Eddie Murphy's daughter is definitely the one more capable to be the ruler of Zamunda, but women aren't allowed to rule. So that kind of gives you we're starting to see what the shape of this movie is going to be. And that's a perfectly lovely, I think to your guys' point, even that being the story is much more of a family movie.
Yes.
Dad figuring out what to do with his children is much more a family-friendly story than young bachelor goes to New York to sow his wild oats, but really secretly wants to fall in love. So I think that everything about this is sort of pointing towards a kinder, gentler, sweeter. And look, what I will say, as I've said before, that is not necessarily the Coming to America that I would want to see more of. But when Eddie Murphy does do family friendly, he doesn't do horribly. I mean, the Nutty Professor movies, everybody loves those. I think that even as we said, whether it's
Eddie Daycare did well. You're right.
Yeah. So I think that Eddie Murphy can be very funny without being R-rated Eddie Murphy. A lot of the actors in this movie can be very funny. So a lot of the devil's in the details. Like, we could see this movie and be like, fuck, I thought this was going to be sanitized, but holy shit, they really went for some of those jokes. We won't know till we see it. I'm definitely going to watch it. I definitely am excited. There's something just lovely to see all of these, to your point, Johnny, to see all these old, like, they brought back fucking everybody. Everybody who was in that movie is back. And there's something kind of sweet about that, like bringing the entire gang back together. So I'm excited, but yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping we get a Louis Anderson cameo or a Samuel L. Jackson cameo or Sherry Headley's sister. Where is she at? I'd like to see a little more. We do get Jon M in this, so at least we know he's coming back. And the poster was released with all the characters on it. I do want to stress this. Some of the people in my sphere complained about the poster, saying there was too many characters on it. I will refer you to Avengers Endgame. There is a crap ton of characters on that poster. How hard is it for you to keep track of everybody on a poster? Give me a break. What a terrible thing to ding it on. So anyway, we'll see. It's coming out March 5th, Shan. So yeah. Anyway, I just had to say my piece on that. All right.
That's just such a weird critique.
Because I thought it was a weird critique too. I was like, what? This is your problem with this? The poster. It's too many people. What? Anyway. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll jump into our main topic when we come back after this. Sometimes I just like to let him go.
Yeah, I thought the break was
like
longer this time.
Yeah.
The fuck was that?
Okay, it didn't come out right. It was supposed to be the Witches of Eastwick because
That's a reference.
because I was struggling to remember WandaVision's theme.
Oh my God! When's the last time you saw that, Mike? It was the last time you saw Witches of Eastwick.
Witches of Eastwick. It's been years. You know why though? Because of that cherry puking scene. I can't watch the movie.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what. I, as a kid, scary, like the wolf in Neverending Story, like all the things that when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I couldn't watch that because that, Angelica Houston and the witches taking off her face. I am fine.
Yeah.
Puking up cherries in Witches of Eastwick. No, ma'am.
No, thank
no,
you.
ma'am.
No, thank you. All right, well, let's get into our main topic here, and it's WandaVision. As we've said, for those of you who have not watched our WandaVision reviews, please do watch them. We're getting so many great responses and likes and comments from people on them, so thank you so much for joining us for those. But there's a lot going on around WandaVision here, and as we're going into episode 5, Mike and Shannon, certainly some people had issues with the first couple of episodes. I don't get what's happening. Even the third episode, a little bit issues. Then the fourth episode really showed us the world that's actually happening, at least at this point, what we think is actually happening. We had the return of Randall Park and Kat Dennings in their characters, Darcy and Jimmy Woo, coming back here to figure out what's happening with Wanda and Vision in this town of Westview. Elizabeth Olsen was giving an interview to TV Line, and she hinted that fans should be getting excited because there is a big cameo or surprise cameo coming that's on the level of a certain somebody appearing at the end of Mandalorian season 2. I don't want to spoil that, but she didn't insinuate it's on the level, but she said people should be excited that it might be at this level. Mikey, what do you think about it?
I like that you got the word Mark. Is Mark Johnson? He played the alien in Empire Strikes Back. Well, before we say anything, I think we should say that, like, if you happen to be listening to us and you've not seen any of WandaVision yet, it's going to be hard to talk about this show at the halfway point without getting into spoilers. So I feel like as we start to conjecture about what's happening, if you don't want to listen to any more, turn it off, go watch all of our WandaVision reviews, and then come back. But that being said, are we asking who I think it's going to be, or do I think...
Yeah, she said that she's really excited. She didn't hint at who it's going to be. She said she's really excited. Jack Schaeffer said, I encourage all fans to settle in because there's more coming. There are so many surprises left in store for the 5 remaining episodes. But yes, there was a question about whether it would be on the level of that, and she said yes.
I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, like, first of all, give Elizabeth Olsen a break. Like, she didn't get out her geek protractor and measure every single Marvel character against this Star Wars character and said, yes, this is... Like, I've seen a lot of people being like, well, that wouldn't be on that level. I'm like, she's very excited. Cut her some slack.
I feel attacked. But okay, go ahead. Keep going.
I'm just saying, I feel like if, like, because, for example, let's go through the obvious choices.
Okay.
It is a no-brainer to say, knowing where the character of Wanda Maximoff will be going in the next couple movies, it's a no-brainer to say that it's a good chance Doctor Strange is going to show up. Like, once Sword figures out that Wanda is the one that's causing all this, and she's got these wonky powers, and nobody knows what's going on, and they've exhausted scientific explanations, go to New York, he's an Avenger, call Doctor Strange. So him showing up is a no-brainer, and that could be who she's talking about because it's awesome that he's coming into the show. I think the other no-brainer would be as Wanda is living in her own reality and is creating things for herself, and clearly they've brought up the fact that she did have a twin brother who died in Age of Ultron. Pietro showing back up, Quicksilver showing back up, whether she pulls him in from another reality, whether she recreates him entirely. There have been a lot of rumors that Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in the other Marvel movies, the X-Men franchise, might be in this show. Might he be showing up as an alternate reality version of her brother who accidentally gets pulled into this mess? Possibly. There are rumors that the twins that she and Vision just had in episode 3, might actually, because they're magic and the whole thing doesn't make sense anyway, might grow up and Evan Peters might be playing one of those children. So those are the obvious ones. People have thrown around, a lot of people are throwing around Magneto, as my good friend Johnny here loves to point out. This could be the beginning of mutants, and perhaps we will see a in-universe Eric Lensher. Eric playing Magneto, the character of Magneto showing up. I think that's less likely, but it's definitely a possibility. And then it starts to get wonky. Like, we all know that there's been talk of Chris Evans coming back as Cap. Is old Steve Rogers going to hobble his ass in there and try and calm Wanda down? Possibly.
Hobble. He looked pretty good.
I mean, look, he looked like he could run for president. Every time I watch Endgame, I'm like, it's Joe Biden. But old Chris Evans looks like Joe Biden. Like, show me the lie. But yeah, and look, I think that's not. I don't think that's likely either. But again, it's been 3 weeks since old Steve Rogers handed Falcon the shield. It hasn't been that long, so things get really dire, and you need someone who's going to be like, "Hey, Wanda, bring it down a few notches." Maybe it is old Steve. Who knows? What do you guys think?
What do you think, Shannon? What's your feeling on this one?
Well, I mean, again, I don't see, we all have heard for a bit that Doctor Strange would probably show up in some capacity. So the fact that rumor has already been out there for a while, that sort of makes me cross him off the list.
Okay.
The Evan Peters thing, I know the actor who dubs his lines, I think it's in South America, in Brazil, I thought.
Yep.
The actor who dubs his lines basically said, I got to do this for WandaVision, and that tweet was probably taken down and the guy's account was locked.
Sword showed up with a truck outside of his house.
Will Smith. Yeah.
There's certainly credence to that.
Yeah.
But based off of Elizabeth Olsen's enthusiasm, again, I don't think it's a 1-for-1 like a Luke Skywalker. But based off of her enthusiasm in that interview, I'm like, well, again, we talked about this, so I don't think that's it. Right. But also Paul Bettany gave an interview, it was on a podcast, where he had said as well, he's like, I'm really surprised that this hasn't leaked yet. So in terms of other characters, think about who Wanda is connected to. Really, the only other character is Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Jeremy Renner showing up would be that big of a showstopper. Yeah, she's also somewhat connected to Tony Stark. Right. I don't think it's going to be RDJ. I think it's going to be the actor who I believe is going to play Mephisto. I think because after episode 4 came out, if you get the Disney Plus emails, you got the WandaVision episode 4 streaming now, and there was a new poster, and in between Wanda and Vision on the wallpaper of their house, there's very clearly a little devil face there. Now, I'm not one to especially in promotional materials, kind of go over everything with a magnifying glass. In the show, I think that's all fair game. But in the promotional materials, I'm like, that's probably an accident. And I looked at the rest of the wallpaper, I'm like, no, that is clearly a little devil face. So whoever they have cast as Mephisto, I think that's what it's going to be.
Awesome. I love that WandaVision and Marvel have turned all of us into Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Every single more so Star Wars is just I think that's Tatooine, and if you this is a whole other level of look at the clock. The clock is pointing to the red pot. The red pot is red because of the devil. Pot is the devil's weed. It's Mephisto. Everyone is going fucking insane. All that being said, the wallpaper does look like a devil face, so it is true.
Put that on the table.
Also, it's true, but like we're crazy.
Yeah, true. And they've turned us into this, and they're enjoying it, giggling their butts off in writers' rooms.
Oh, they love it.
Of course they do.
Well, really, up until this point with the MCU, there hasn't really been like a big mystery like this. I mean, we kind of knew what was coming.
Yeah. There's been allusions to things like Wakanda's mentioned before we ever see Black Panther, and certain things are mentioned before we ever get to certain spots, but they're not really like you're like thinking, oh well, I hope they make it happen. You're not saying, oh, this is coming.
Yeah,
there's a difference. So
they'll do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Good. You're going on my point.
I would say like they do. Well, they do like in Spider-Man: Far From Home, the number that was on the boat was the issue where Hydra appeared. Like they'll do little Easter eggs sort of referencing outside world comic stuff. And WandaVision is definitely doing that. Shannon pinpointed a lot of those numbers and what they represent in the comics. But yes, the untangling of the mystery, because this started in such a weird place that was sort of what's going on. You're right. It has allowed them to lead us down a different path than they normally do. And I think all the fans are just having a ton of fun with it. Whether we end up being right or wrong, the experience of the guessing and the looking and all of that is actually really, really fun.
I think you make an excellent point, though, where you say, like, we should give Elizabeth the credit. When I tweeted it out this morning, I only tweeted out, like, well, what would be at the level of Skywalker? It was more of a question. I didn't think anything would come close. I don't see anything. And I said combined, Aaron Taylor and Evan Peters don't come anywhere close to Luke Skywalker. So for me, if they're, well, I gave it now. Hey, now, well, thanks for the spoiler warning, though, Michael. I appreciate it. Saved me right now. But yeah, the situation there is like, well, what would be it? Someone mentioned Ultron, and that grabbed my interest. The idea of Ultron coming back, I think, would be interesting. Who would be the voice? If it's a new Ultron, who would be the voice of this Ultron? I wonder. If you go further out, someone mentioned one of the gentlemen who follows me on Twitter. He's an editor for the Seattle Times, for the sports section. He said he thinks Henry Cavill coming in as Wonder Man, that could be an incredible cameo. And I was like, well, we've mentioned Wonder Man in one of our reviews, I think is a possibility. Certainly the Grim Reaper has been mentioned, and Grim Reaper, Eric Williams, is Wonder Man's brother. So that's a possibility as well. And remember, in West Coast Avengers, after Vision is brought back to life, or one of the issues brought, it's Simon Williams's mind that is put into, or pieces of his mind that are put into Vision to reanimate him. So there's possibilities there, bringing in Wonder Man for sure. Michael Fassbender could be very interesting as her dad. That would be fascinating. So then you open the door that, in fact, her parents didn't die, that her dad at least is still alive, even though her brother might be dead. He is still alive. So what does that mean? Does that open a whole door? But there's been no allusions to Fassbender coming back to this situation. RDJ is close, but that wouldn't be that much of a cameo, because like, oh yeah, RDJ in another project, MCU project. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. So I don't know who it could be, but I'm curious, and I think this was the exact point of what Elizabeth was doing. People have been complaining. I'm like, I'm not as into it, or I've got issues, blah, blah, blah. People said episode 4 is the one you got to watch. Now they understand, like they're dropping these little 1-minute teasers about the rest of the episodes coming, and that teaser was great. My God. And so you're just like, okay, so this is their way of trying to get people back on board, get people back in mass to watch it, and hopefully the surprise is worth it. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I will say, as far as like getting people back, I think that there's a little bit of like, we'll call it Twitter rewriting history. I think that there's been a lot of, when you go on social media, there is a large number of people that are like, I don't get this. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. This is boring. Like, in the world of social media, I don't have Disney Plus's numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure they're not super worried about the number of people that are watching WandaVision every week. Like, I think the numbers have been pretty okay. So and I understand what you're saying, and I do think that turning the tide of like sort of the buzz on social media is one thing, but I think that as far as like getting viewers back or being concerned, like I think they're feeling pretty good about this on the whole.
But I've heard from a number of people in my sphere that they're not in any rush to watch it, and I think that's the thing that they want to get, is that Mandalorian buzz, where people are like, I got to watch it tonight. I got to, and so they're not sensing that. That's an overall feeling that people have necessarily for the people getting around to it. And I think they want to make it more of an event type thing. So that's my point overall. Shannon, what were you going to say? You were nodding your head.
Well, I mean, and again, this is just personal taste. Yeah. I mean, Mandalorian it's a show that really takes its time.
Yeah.
And you're not necessarily unraveling a big mystery. So Mandalorian, when I started it at midnight on Thursdays, I dozed off a lot. It has nothing to do with the quality of the show. It just says, I'm kind of tired.
Right.
And your age.
Well,
did you
there's
doze off? Okay. You dozed off during Mandalorian? Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I tried to watch it at midnight, except for the first episode of season 1, I would doze off. Okay. So, but with WandaVision, because you are unraveling that mystery, I am just completely engaged the whole time. And granted, I've also started taking a nap at like 8 p.m.
because of your age.
Have you ever taken an 8 p.m. nap without the aid of alcohol? It is delightful.
No, because if I go to bed at 8 a.m., I'm going to sleep until the next morning. I'm not getting back up.
But I certainly respect it. I mean, there are many people on my wall and timeline as well who have said, I am going to wait until this is all out because I just want to be able to blaze through it. And that's certainly a decision. I mean, but me personally, I love what we're able to do from Friday to Friday of every week, which is just go in and I love the dissecting. And based off of their history, it's going to lead to something.
We shall see. We got a few minutes before we wrap up. Any other speculation you want to throw out there, guys? Any other possibilities that have been come up over the last few days that people have spoken about in interviews? Anything else you guys want to touch on?
Well, I know that someone had talked about Ian McKellen showing up, and I was like, I think he's probably off the board. I don't know.
What about Patrick Stewart? I mean, he came out and said that they had tried to woo him. They had conversations with Feige about him coming back as Professor X in the MCU, and he said he turned it down. So is he lying? Is he telling the truth? Or like what that is?
First of all,
I mean, because if anyone can go toe to toe with her mind, it is Professor X. You would think.
First of all, I don't think that Patrick Stewart lies. So
wow,
I think Jean-Luc Picard always tells the truth because he's the better captain than other.
When he gets around to it 6 episodes later, when he gets around after he finishes thinking about what to do for 6 episodes, sure.
I kind of think
universe 7 times over. Anyway, go ahead.
Nerd fight.
I feel like WandaVision. I do feel like WandaVision may shed some light on this, but I think that Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are kind of a package deal. And in the same way that Fassbender and McAvoy would be a package deal. I think that as Marvel, Kevin Feige, as they've been trying to figure out how mutants are coming into this world, and as they've been figuring out how they're going to be opening up these multiverses, I think that there's probably like a lot of, well, if this, then this. And yes, if Patrick Stewart is on board to come in as Professor X in whatever capacity, then you would want Ian McKellen. If he's out, then you kind of go Fassbender, McAvoy. If they're out, then you say, okay, well, we're going to do within our world, we have a brand new. Like, I think that it's sort of like there's probably a lot of juggling going on behind the scenes to figure out what the right thing, because you can't halfway it. You can't say, well, we're going to have this universe's Professor X, but then Fassbender. Like, it would just get even in this world of multiverses that we're about to step into in both Marvel and DC. There's a lot going on. You can definitely push that too far to the point where the audience is like, okay, now I'm just lost.
What about Famke Janssen? Does that apply if she was the one that's the surprise coming back as Jean Grey to go toe to toe with Wanda?
I think that is a perfect example of something that hardcore comic book fans would freak out about, and regular audiences would be like, I have no idea why this is important at all. Like, to use the Luke Skywalker example, the Luke Skywalker example is great because if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan who has been listing off every possible Jedi that still exists, you get to the, as we all were, to the end of Mandalorian season 2, and you end up going, yeah, this does make the most sense within the world. He is the guy right now. He's about to open a school. Why was I even thinking that it was going to be A, B, C, or D? This makes sense. But if you are a casual Star Wars fan who doesn't watch Rebels, who didn't play Fallen Order, who doesn't know every Jedi in existence, you watch that and you're like, hey, you're Leo in the meme. You're like, oh, it's Luke Skywalker. And I think Famke Janssen falls too far on the former side. I think that her stepping through as full Phoenix Jean Grey, if you're a comic book guy, you're like, fuck yeah, Scarlet Witch versus the Phoenix. And if you are like someone who just loves the MCU movies, you're like, why? What?
Right.
Yeah,
Hugh
I'm trying to
Jackman.
think how many X-Men movies there have been since Famke Janssen's last appearance, which was in an X-Men movie that was not very well regarded. It's not.
She was in Days of Future Past when he came back.
Yeah, but
I hear you.
I guess I'm equating it more with The Last Stand. I mean you are right.
Yeah.
But it's like.
How about Wolverine?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like a Michael Keaton showing up in the Flash thing where he kind of went out on top.
Right.
So
what about Wolverine though? Wolverine, is that not a possibility? Do you think if Hugh Jackman came back as Wolverine?
I
just
think
don't know
it's
what the connection is.
Yeah, fair.
I think that like to Wanda Maximoff from Sokovia.
Yeah.
What does Hugh Jackman mean to her?
Yeah.
I think it's like, and I think that lots of people are doing this right now. There is a natural excitement for mutants. X-Men is by far one of the most popular things that Marvel does. In the past decade, they've definitely elevated Avengers. Like, there was a time in life where the Avengers, in general, Iron Man, Captain America, all of them, were way lower on the popularity scale. Like, X-Men and Spider-Man were, like, Wolverine and Spider-Man were the tops, and X-Men were way more popular than Avengers. Once Marvel sold Avengers and Fantastic Four and Daredevil off to Fox and Spider-Man off to Sony, when they started to make their own movies, they were like, well, we've got the Avengers, but they were definitely sort of second stringers, which is hard to remember now because they are now the most popular superheroes in the world. So there's definitely an excitement. We know that mutants are coming. And with Wanda's powers leveling up the way they are in WandaVision, you're like, this is Scarlet Witch, mutants are coming. And with the multiverses opening up, it opens up all of the possibilities for, as Johnny's saying, for Hugh Jackman or Ian McKellen or Patrick Stewart or Fassbender or McAvoy or any of these characters from the other universe. I think I get a little bit nervous because I think if they just open up a portal and dump a bunch of mutants into this world, that is kind of sloppy storytelling.
I don't disagree with you.
And if they do end up going down that road, Marvel has earned a lot of. I will go with them and see if they can pull it off. But it definitely has the potential to be very sloppy. Like, I don't want to have just because a portal opened up, we now have Wolverine, Professor X, Magneto, and a bunch of mutants running around, and that's how we start telling mutant stories. I think there's probably a more elegant way to bring mutants into this world. If WandaVision in and of itself is House of M in reverse.
Yeah.
House of M ends with Wanda being so over all of the fighting and everything that's happened with her family and everything that she says no more mutants. Yeah. And in an instant, billions of mutants disappear. If they do the opposite of this, if for whatever reason she comes out of this and says, I want everyone to be able to whatever, and ends up being the spark that creates mutants, I'm cool with it. Like, that's cool for me. So I think it'll be interesting to see. So I'm anxious to get to mutants, but I also feel like they could go down a bad road, so I'm cautious. Yeah.
And they did mention astronauts. I think it'd be if they introduced Fantastic Four at the end, that would be shocking on so many levels. Maybe that could be the dish, but that would be a hell of a thing to keep under wraps. 4 actors somehow under wraps shooting a Fantastic Four cameo.
True.
We shall see them. We shall see.
The Mandalorian did it with Luke Skywalker.
That's true, but that was a de-aged Luke Skywalker, so as opposed to the actual actor being on set, even though I think he was on set at times. So we shall see. Anyway, all right, well, let's wrap up there. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies. We appreciate it madly that you take the time to listen or watch us here on the Outlaw Nation channel and on our podcast feed. So thank you so much. Shannon, what do we got to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram, at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MK2, and if you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mike?
We do not have a Cerebro helmet that lets us know how many geeks are out there, but we need you guys to let us know that you are here. And here are the ways that you can do that. You can like this post below. You can subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw page. There is a ton of awesome geeky content for all walks of life. Wrestling, politics, nerdery, Star Wars, all of the things. So definitely subscribe. Check out all the other videos. Particularly check out the videos with Shannon and I in them, because those are my personal favorites. Leave some comments below. Let us know what you thought about all of our chats today. Are you excited about the Nevers? Do you think it looks like X-Men in petticoats, like I do? Keep us posted on all of that. We love to respond to you guys in the comments. And then, of course, the best thing that you guys can do for us is to take this video and retweet it, post it, text it to your friends. Hey, check out these geeks. They're super fun. You guys should join in the party. And yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you so much.
There you go. All right. Well, take care of yourselves. Practice social distancing. Wear your masks, and then come back and see us again next week for another brand new. Oh, and don't forget about our WandaVision reviews on Saturday. This Saturday we have a new WandaVision review. But then after that, come back and see us next week with another brand new episode here of the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey!